Sheer empty space. Nothing for as far as you can see but ridge lines and valley floor. You think of 100-degree weather, but it's actually quite pleasant.
We descended down into the Eureka Dunes valley there. We came down a really rough road that had a lot of washboard on it. But we traveled as a group up towards the dunes, and as you kind of come on them, they're just bam, right there, and they're huge. You feel tiny in a little spot there below the dunes. We just set up camp in one of those little group camp spots right below. And it was
super vast. I mean, you're just looking at giant valley. We actually caught it at a good time because we had wildflowers going on.
Wildflowers are beautiful. Those are gorgeous. The dunes were crazy. Hiking on the dunes was way more exhausting than I thought it was going to be. You know, you try to step 2 feet and you gain 6 inches. Getting that extra exercise was a bonus for me. Yeah.
You know, you kind of gain access to spots that are off the beaten path, and sure, you could hike out to them, but having your base camp set up with your vehicle is kind of nice because you have a place to come back to if you want to go venture out. It's unique to sleep on top of your car. I think that's one of the main things that draws people to it. You know, you're out there, it feels like you're in a tree fort. You're like up in the trees, looking out your windows, you know, you kind of have a better view around you. You're not sleeping on the ground. You're a little bit less concerned about things crawling into your sleeping environment.
So yeah, we woke up in the morning and started driving up towards Steel Pass. We went up through Dedeckra Canyon. We saw there's a lot of these little stair steps as you go up through the canyon. It's real narrow. There's big boulders on the left and the right. So you know, it looks really challenging, but actually when you get in there close, if you have a spotter, you can kind of navigate, you know, in and around the boulders and just hit those stair steps right.
The technical is tight, you know, 4x4, a lot of rocks. Really cool. It was tall canyon walls. We actually got some jets that flew over while we were driving through, which is kind of cool because the sound, you know, resonated through the canyons.
Dropping down into the valley was pretty cool. I was impressed. I was very, very impressed.
It puts you out there away from everybody else. You have a good crew of people with you usually, and if you're car camping, you know, you kind of gain access to spots that are off the beaten path.
Very pleasant. Especially visiting the hot springs, as you have a natural water source very close hand. It's something you don't think of going into the desert, having trees, plant life.
My favorite moment from the whole trip was I was sitting in the hot springs, and it was kind of mid-evening, and I had the flat desert in front of me, and far off into the distance I had the mountains.
So the sunsets are magnificent out there. You've got these massive peaks that are some of the highest in California, and the sun just kind of comes down and dips behind them, and you get these bright, brilliant oranges that kind of fade to purple around the outsides. And it's neat because all the other mountains around it kind of get silhouetted. So we were driving up Lippincott Road towards the racetrack, and that was kind of the first technical section, is this kind of grade right there before you actually get up towards where the flats are, where the racetrack is. And it's a really narrow, lots of switchbacks, really steep, so it's, you know, 4 low, you're just kind of crawling over some rocks. And as you're kind of crawling up through that canyon there, you look over and you'll see different mines. First thing you see is just all this old decrepit mining gear. You see like old tracks that coming out of the mines themselves. You see old, it looks like kind of box cars. Saw this old pair of boots that was sitting there just kind of half buried by rocks. And yeah, you can get out and actually get up to the mines to get hit with this, you know, nice cold 60-degree air, which is such a relief.
The racetrack was awesome.
First impression you get is this really flat, like arid playa.
You know, you have these rocks that are out there, and they're just literally sliding across this giant plain that's just hard-packed dirt with cracks in it. No one really knows how they start to slide, but they slide hundreds upon thousands of feet.
Just you see it in a book, and you don't realize how far these have traveled. You don't realize the patterns that they've traveled. Some of them, you know, look like they've gone straight. Some go left, some go to the right.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the wonders, I think, of the California desert. 4x4 tires, you know, 4-wheel drive for sure. Definitely something you're going to want to have clearance.
It's actually a lot more intimidating going down. It always tends to be a little bit more intimidating going down these grades than it is going up. because you got gravity and you're kind of using your brakes and kind of riding down in low gear. In fact, we actually picked up a couple of bystanders that were hanging out at the top because they were nervous, and they were in a Jeep. They were probably outfitted properly, but they just didn't want to go down alone. So it was nice to have them join our group, and we all kind of caravan through these like really steep switchbacks down back into the valley. We passed our lunch spot, which we had stopped on the way up. We finally started to get views down the valley, and we started to see what appeared to be, a small dust storm kind of coming down the other end of the valley. And you kind of start to see a little bit of white kind of spin up, and I thought it was just, afternoon winds and, a little bit of mild sand that we eventually would have to kind of crawl through with our windows up. It became apparent that this wasn't just a small afternoon, windstorm. This was going to be a full-blown sandstorm. And as we got closer and closer, it started to turn into kind of whiteout conditions, and you could hear the sand just pelting the side of the vehicle. And, it was the point where 30, 40 feet of visibility was really all you had. So it made it really slow going as we really started driving through the heart of this sandstorm. We passed our lunch spot, which we had stopped on the way up. We finally started to get views down the valley, and we started to see what appeared to be, a small dust storm kind of coming down the other end of the valley.
It was really intense and but also kind of fun at the same time.
It became apparent that this wasn't just a small afternoon, windstorm. This was going to be a full-blown sandstorm. And as we got closer and closer, it started to turn into kind of whiteout conditions, and you could hear the sand just pelting the side of the vehicle. It was the point where 30, 40 feet of visibility was really all you had. So it made it really slow going as we really started driving through the heart of this sandstorm.
So we hunkered down behind some trees, try to take some cover, some shelter.
You know what? All it says for Death Valley right now is intermittent clouds.
I was actually kind of worried about being in the vehicles, as you can't actually see what's flying at you in a sandstorm. Kind of worried about maybe some rocks or some tree limbs or something, maybe taking out a window. But once it got to a point where we could no longer take shelter within the trees, we retreated to Evan's 4Runner, and the five of us kind of hunkered down inside.
Inside the car, we've got Todd. Hey. I don't know if you can see any of those folks.
Hey!
There they are.
So I'd say we were looking at 80 to 100 mile an hour gusts at times, and certainly when we were sitting up in the tent at night, I mean, it was just flat, and it was really, really noisy.
And we were just in there just trying to survive, basically, and actually the tents held up great.
And the wind is intense. Like, I don't even know if we're gonna... We might get blown off the top of the car tonight.
We might die.
Oh my God.
I'm hanging on. Here, Griffin, give me some light over here.
We got to get in our tent and sort of just ride the storm out. Things were flapping, wind was blowing hard.
And you could feel the car shuddering and shaking. The tents held up really well. I mean, we had the frames didn't bend, they didn't tweak at all. The fabric made a lot of noise, as it would be, beat up against the frame of the tent, but it was great.
So what do we got out there? We got I'd say we got 100 mile an hour gusts.
100 mile an hour gusts.
Oh my God, I think we might die.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. Woo! The tent's holding up pretty good though. We got no issues. Frame's still good. All the way up in here. I think that going to Death Valley in the middle of a sandstorm, well,
That's downward.
we got to test our products, right? Gotta get out here. This is a little bit intense right now. I'll admit.